So welcome. It is June 21st. Today's our longest day of the year. And today what we're going to discuss is a national, and I want you to keep that in mind, it is a national market update. So what I'm going to do is throw a lot of quotes, a lot of statistics. All of this basically is here for you to make note of specific things that you can then throw out to your sphere of influence, your clients, your customers, talking with them so that there's no panic about what's going on, what's going to happen. Should I sell now? Should I buy now? Things of that nature. Along with that, then let's take a look at what we've got. So here we go. Understanding the market itself. As a disclaimer, nobody's got a crystal ball. We don't know exactly what's going to happen. We are not fortune tellers. So keep that in mind as I go through this. But let's hit two important topics. With one being simply this: is now a good time to buy or sell a home? A great thing to do is to simply ask people a couple of questions. One, well, do you think prices are going to be higher or lower a year from now? If the response is lower, well, then guess what? Now's a good time to sell. Do you think mortgage rates are going to be higher or lower a year from now? Either way, if you answered yes to one of those questions, then now is probably the better time to sell. So just ask some simple questions. Now, no matter what the market is, the best answer to it is this a good time to buy or sell? Well, it depends. Maybe what we should start out with, if somebody says, hey, how's the market? Is this a good time to sell? Well, maybe the question, what segment of the market are you in? Are you looking to be able to buy or are you looking to sell? What are the circumstances? Really, before we can answer that question, we need to know what they're thinking. Keep that one in mind. So here, we're going to see how many or how much information I can actually get covered for you through this presentation. But all things set, we've got equity we want to look at, buyer demand, home prices, inventory. What about the mortgage rate, inflations? Gee, there's all these foreclosures. We've all heard it. We're going to talk about all of them. So here we go. Let's hit equity first. This is an important part so that we can understand what's the difference about today's market versus what we experienced back between 2006 through 2010 here in Michigan. 2011 is when we began the recovery. What's the difference? Well, the average home equity gain for U.S. homeowners with a mortgage is $63,000. They've got a year-over-year increase in equity of 32.2%. Year-over-year, 20 over 21. In overall, there's a 3.8 trillion year-over-year total increase in equity. If we just take a look at the year-over-year price appreciation, it's 19.1% in January 22 over last year, 2021. Even when you take a look at the top 10 in increases, some of these numbers are kind of scary. On one hand, you're glad you're not there. On the other hand, you wish you would have owned a home a year earlier. But even here in Michigan, we had a $28,000 increase in equity, the average gain year over year. Households with a 3%, 30-year fixed rate mortgage are unlikely to give that up. Now, that's a key. They're unlikely to give that up in favor of a mortgage of, well, 5-6%. Where we're at right now, and we expect this so-called lock-in effect to weigh in on home sales. Now, that's Fannie Mae that gave that quote right there. The national loan to value, if we've got newer agents on, LTV, loan to value, in the fourth quarter of 2021 was 30.8%, the lowest in over 3 decades. So the loan to value that was taken out, 30.8%. In inflation adjusted terms, homeowners Q4 2021 had an average of $307,000 in equity, which is a historic high. You're getting an idea. We can't have the collapse that we had previously. 102,787 potential growth in household wealth over the next 5 years solely on increased home equity if you purchase a $390,000 home in January of 2022. So this is the expected increase over 5 years. Good time to buy a home. Let's talk about buyer demand. The existing home sales hit a 15-year record high. Now that's a key for us to be able to remember, because some of you have actually seen locally that our sales have slowed. Well, guess what? When you have a record high, that's expected to be year over year what you're going to run into. So the number of existing home sales, 2019 to 2021, look at the increase that we saw. The demand in regard to the properties that we didn't even have available. Looking at the number of showings that occurred, third highest since the pandemic. So way back here, 2020 January, here's where we hit a great high when we could say that, okay, we're quote unquote, we're done with the pandemic. And just look at how everything hit. And here's still January 2022. Doesn't seem to be too much of a problem, even though we've had rising interest rates. Let's look at home prices. Guys, now this is price appreciation, the percent of increase year over year. So January 2021 had a 10% increase over 2020 in January 2020. That's what this is looking at. But January 2022 had a 19.1% increase over January of 2021. It was a great year, and a lot of people have made a lot of money. You know, if anybody says that, well, I'm thinking I'm going to wait because the market's going to crash, guys, this is why I want to throw this out for you today. The evidence of a market crashing isn't there. Think of the individuals who 3 years ago said, I'm going to sell my house now and then I'll buy again when the market crashes, and look at the results of just 2 years of waiting. Matter of fact, wait, there's more. This is the home price forecast by these different organizations. You can see that 9.6% increase is the high, 3% is the low. Here's Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. But on average, the predictions are that we're going to see a 6.1% increase in price values for 2022. Let's look at, I've got to do a quick check here. John, I have not looked this close enough yet, but let's see what comes up. Home price forecast for 2022 is of 422.22. Look at what the changes have become. Not much, but they've actually increased in what they're forecasting with a 7.8% average. So these are the so-called experts. Anybody seeing a drop in these numbers? All of them say there is an increase in property values. Estimated home price performance. I want you to take a look at what they're forecasting. Still 2022, a 9.3. They are predicting a little bit of a slowdown. But guys, what we're talking about are normal numbers. I've often said that if you were in the business prior to 94, 95 maybe, you were used to or saw normal markets. If you haven't been in the business prior to that, you've never seen a normal market, because what you saw was nothing but increases. And then we saw that crash. My arm can't go down far enough, and we've well recovered from what I ever expected to have happen with that. But even look at this. Here's the metro markets, and you see that it's showing price decreases. The market slowing. Guys, we had a record year. What typically happens after a record year like we had last year, especially with rising interest rates and everything else we got going? There is going to be a slow, but it's not the beginning of a crash. It's not even, well, here, at best, let's call it a deceleration. Fair enough? Even the share of homes having their price reduced has increased. Why? I believe the reason for this is due to the fact that there are many homeowners that have finally come on the market and said, well, hey, if I can get this price, I would sell it. It's almost the make me sell price. I also believe that as real estate agents, we finally properly priced the properties to where if it hasn't sold in the first week, we're going, oops, we have to make an adjustment. I can't be the only one to have done something like that. So it's expected is the way that I would put it. The housing market update. This is from Redfin. Nearly 1 in 5 sellers is dropping their price, the highest rate since October of 2019. Look, price adjustments are a normal thing. I want to caution you that we just don't automatically go to adjusting a price, but rather we have a discussion as to what the options are, because again, we can bring the property up to the price or the price down to the property. Most of you understand and remember what that's from. Key: deceleration does not equal depreciation. And we're going to talk more about that. Let's talk housing inventory, because this is a big part. And Andre, I think, yeah, Andre put in here, what speeds up must slow down. Actually, what we're going to show you is a lot of justification toward exactly what you just talked about. Here's what we know. It's hard to have a huge fall when we have extremely low inventory. So the new monthly listing, this is just not the inventory, but the monthly listings, we can see has been increasing. April and May were actually higher than the previous year. So we have seen some additional numbers. And again, we're talking nationally. More newly listed homes entered the market than in any other market since June of 2019. New listings greater than active listings. So even to the point where we've got more listings coming on than what the active listings were. Again, what's it going to do? It's going to help us recover and get a normal inventory of listings to where people will have choices and we won't have the large number of multiple offers. But we've got to go from having 5, 6, 7 multiple offers down to having 2 multiple offers, down to having not a multiple offer, to not having an offer in the first week. Again, what we've experienced since 95 has not been a normal market. And people need to know that. We'll talk more in regards to the numbers. May housing data release reveals a major turning point in inventory. So with the count of home listings actively for sale growing compared to last year for the first time since mid-2019, sellers are fueling this turnaround in inventory with newly listed homes entering the market at a rate not seen since 2019. Guys, we know locally that's not a huge number, but we've got to have this happen to return to a somewhat normal market. Changing composition of the listings, active listings each month. You'll see that the green is a carryover versus the new listings. Mortgage rates. Here's what we know. These things have been changing a lot. Matter of fact, when the Fed adjusted the market rate, what was it? 75 basis points, basically 0.75%. The rate went up instantly and then dropped shortly after that. Most of the mortgage people I've talked to are all predicting that it will go even higher. So look for interest rates to be 6-7%. Hey, maybe it'll not hit that, but they're still talking more increases in that prime lending rate. If you take a look at the 30-year fixed rate, so this is January 22 through to today, here's what it's done. And again, this is only through 6/2, but we saw the increase. We've seen a slight drop. We've seen 6%. Again, most are saying it's going to go up again. Greater than 50% of current mortgages are less than 4 years old. So when you take a look at this, 54% are less than 4 years old. So when we talk 30-year mortgages, guys, here's what we know. People aren't going to be in a house or in that mortgage for 30 years. They just put it on 30 years to have a lower payment. The average annual 30-year mortgage rate. Now, guys, this is where this is going. This was 2018, and we thought these were awesome rates. And then we saw this, and then to 2020, and then 2021 to drop below 3%. Look, I got mine at 2.78, and that wasn't the lowest rate. Now, am I ever going to refinance that rate? Probably not. Do we expect anybody else to do it? No, probably not. Let's continue to take a look at these rates and where homeowners look. Almost 60% of the existing loans are at 4% or less. Who's going to refinance that when we're at 5 to 6%? Unless if they need cash out of their home, they're likely to stay right in that. Current mortgage rate compared to the last 5 decades, guys. So here's back at 1970. 1980, this is when I got into the business, 1987. And for the most part, those first few years, 1987 to 1990, I was looking at selling homes anywhere from 11 to 13%. And if I saw 9 or 10, it wasn't because of concessions for closing costs. It was concessions to buy down the interest rate. That's what we used to do so that people could actually afford a home. But look, here's 1990s. The average was 8.1. Even in the 2000s, guys, it's 6.27. And those that lived through these interest rates, we were loving that it was constantly dropping like this. Even now, 4.09 is the average for the 2010s, and a current rate that we're at 5.16. Guys, it's not going to stop people from making moves and going out and buying homes. That's what I want you to see. I don't want you to buy into any of the paranoia. We need to keep everybody calm and go, hey, all we're doing is moving back to normal. Mixed impacts on the rising rates on housing rates. So this I want you to see is the changes when mortgage rates increase by greater than 1%. So this is going all the way back to this 8-month period of 96, where there was a quick change like we've experienced. It increased 1.2%. Final rate was still at 8. Home prices went up 2%. Home sales dropped 2%. 19-month period through 2000. Increase was 1.81. Final rate was 8.52. There was a 13% increase. Housing sales dropped only 2%. Here's 03 to 04, that 12-month, 1%. Final rate was 6.9 and went up 13%. Home sales went up 2%. Guys, all I want you to see, yes, there was a slight slowdown, and we know what this period was, but there was only a slight slowdown. But look what happened to the prices. Don't panic and don't allow anybody else to panic. History has shown that rising mortgage rates may take the steam out of rising housing prices, but they don't necessarily trigger a decline. And we're now seeing all the reasons, because there's a major difference in our market and in regards to the mindset of homeowners and the amount of equity that they hold in their homes. We're sitting well. How about affordability? Here's what we know. There's three components to the affordability equation. That's going to get, what are homes selling for? What are we having to pay for interest rates to borrow the money? And what is the income happening for the individuals who are buying and borrowing money? So take a look at this. Wages are increasing, and we all know that. And we know what we're dealing with right now in regards to inflation. But guys, the average income is going up quite well. And again, more people are being more wise with their money. They're not out spending. There's a lot more saving. Buyer's income is still greater than what is required. So the blue, the median income, their qualifying income, they're still doing quite well. We know that the monthly mortgage payments are increasing. It's going to happen. The way that it's taken off, interest rates going up now, that's going to happen. It is pressing upon affordability. So when you take a look, as it says here, the monthly principal and interest payment as a percentage required to purchase the average priced home with 20% down. We had a really high rate where it was difficult, and people were 34% of their income, back-end debt ratios, versus 22 for the 2021 third quarter. But look where we are today. And guys, back-end debt ratios to be able to buy, just the front-end ratio, the DTI, debt to income ratio, is 28%. Folks are still doing really well. They have money to be able to buy homes. Take a look at the aspect of inflation. Yeah, Holly, I'm going to send these out to all of the management team, and that way they'll be able to share with you. It'll be this actual presentation. I've got this from the corporation, so we will get those out there. Inflation, the average consumer is spending an additional $429 monthly. Meanwhile, average weekly wages rose just $212. So there is a little bit of a shortfall there, $217 a month. This means the average consumer will be looking for a home that is $42,000 cheaper. Monthly spending increases are dramatic, so 21 versus 22. And again, that's excluding the cost of shelter. It has happened. But here's the key. Should we still have home ownership? Should we still be buying homes? Absolutely. Because when you take a look at the home price appreciation versus the consumer price increases over the decades, you can see that other than 1 year, or 1 decade, come on. It's a hedge against inflation. People should own and invest in real estate. It's the safest investment that they got, including right now. Even the aspect, we got to take a look, because if you don't own your home, what's the option? You go rent. Well, look at what rent has done. Here's the core inflation rate, and look what the rental prices are doing. Not a good position to be in. Home ownership is the hedge. This is the average annual real house price growth by decade. And look at what we've experienced so far just in 2020s. But there's always growth. There's always growth. Real estate is your safest. Let's hit this last one. Guys, we're actually going to get all the way through this, but I'm going quick. Forbearance and foreclosure. Everybody was going, oh, there's going to be this huge catastrophe because all of these homes are going to come because of foreclosure due to the forbearance that was done. No, the only thing we're going to do is return to normal foreclosure rates because it happens. But loans and forbearance still falling. So May of 2020 to January 2022, very few homes are still in forbearance. So the impact hasn't been seen and probably won't be seen, and this is the reason why. Loans upon exiting forbearance program, almost 38% were paid in full. They paid back the forbearance. 44% had the workout or a repayment plan, and 18% still in trouble. Otherwise, guess what? We're looking at normal rates. But guys, even then, if they were in forbearance and they can't do a workout, what are they going to do? I would hope sell. And that's where you should be communicating with your sphere of influence and letting them know what's going on. Too many people may give up their home when they shouldn't because there's equity within the home. Sell. The equity is there. A surge in foreclosures as the forbearance plan ends is unlikely. The very rapid home price appreciation, 2020-21, has boosted home equity. Record levels of home equity will help limit the number of homeowners that actually experience foreclosure because they have equity. A heads up on foreclosures. We will see a sharp increase in foreclosure activity soon. This is off record low foreclosure levels that were a result of the foreclosure moratoriums. They couldn't foreclose even on the people that, I guess, normal market would have been in foreclosure. Government was not allowing it, but as it says, this is not indicating a serious problem. We can expect to see double-digit month-over-month growth and triple-digit year-over-year increases. It's simply the gradual return to normal levels of foreclosure activity after the 2-year moratorium on anybody being foreclosed upon. But even look at this. 413,000 less foreclosures over the last 2 years because of the numbers. It's going to increase. Doesn't give any indication of a major change of what's coming. So bottom line, guys, get out there, utilize all of the services. Pardon the Join Gen Blue, but hit the gold convention when it comes up. Take advantage of the training opportunities that the brands are providing to us. Look at our culture. It's different from most real estate companies. Celebrate your wins. Guys, guide each other. So with that, I'm going to just say it is 12:30 unless if there's any hot questions. I'm not an economist. I simply presented the information that was given to me that's been calculated from all the whizzes that are out there. So I will be getting this to your managers so that if you want it, you can use it. You may even do some videos that might get posted to social media or even sent directly to your sphere of influence. So guys, have a great one. Wrap up of another Hot Topic Tuesday. And as we know, go talk to people. We'll see you.